You're watching the ANEC Sports Podcast on YouTube. The show starts right now.
Hello and welcome to episode 28 of the ANEC Sports Podcast. My name is Sam Fred. I'm the founder and editor at Around the Northeast Corner, covering schools across Northeast Indiana and Elkhart County. That includes the ACAC, the NECC, and the Northeast 8. And so, ANEC Sports will be transitioning to the spring season as track and field already underway for our area schools. Baseball and softball will get things underway this week. Well, more so softball than anything else. And boys volleyball will get things going this week. Actually, there are some matches going on tonight. Hopefully, as we get moving into the spring season, hopefully we get some content on the way for the boys volleyball, softball, and baseball seasons as a whole. First things first, it's the talk around the corner. Let's go ahead and recap of what we missed since the last time we talked on the ANEC Sports Podcast. And for our boys basketball coverage, unfortunately, it came to the end really in the regional round for most of our area schools. Kicking off with Class 1A, Lakewood Park fell at the hands of Triton. I believe it was a 23-point win for the Triton Trojans, 63-40, despite the fact Avery McFarland had 19 points in that regional championship game. In Class 2A, Westview fell behind most of the game. Unfortunately, just kind of ran out of gas in the second half as Jimtown pulled away with a 56-40 win over the Westview Warriors. And then the Manchester Squires defeated the Tipton Blue Devils 54-36 as Gavin Bennett had 20 points and led basically 5 different categories, leading all scorers for that regional game at Logansport. And then in Class 3A, Columbia City built about a 2-score lead for most of the second half. And unfortunately, South Bend St. Joseph stormed back and they held on for a 50-46 win over the Columbia City Eagles, despite Landon Richmond scoring 17 points in that contest. A great season for the Columbia City Eagles in that contest. And then Blackhawk Christian, they had their season come to an end at Newcastle as Delta stormed back to win that game 45-43 in dramatic fashion, as the Delta Eagles would go on to lose in semi-state. And then in Class 4A, Homestead defeated Carroll 42-39, led by Matt Welker to hoist their first regional championship since their state title in 2015. As far as semi-state goes for the area schools, Homestead fell to Crown Point in the semi-state semifinals 41-29. And then McConaughey, having won their first regional championship since 1999 with a 78-72 win over the Marion Giants, McConaughey fell to South Bend St. Joseph 115-81 in the semi-state semifinals, where Josiah Ball had 40 points to conclude his illustrious career with 2,138 career points, which actually just breaks the Miami County scoring record previously held by Mr. Basketball himself, Kyle Macy, the 1975 Peru grad. Delta, as I mentioned earlier, they fell to East Chicago Central, 62-46 at Logansport. And then the Manchester Squires had quite the semi-state at Michigan City. Manchester battled in a tightly contested affair with the Jimtown Jimmies in the semifinal matchup, where Ethan Hendricks drained a 3 with about 6 seconds left to defeat the Jimmies 56-55. And then the championship game against Gary 21st Century, the top-ranked team in all of 2A. Manchester built a 10-point lead in the third quarter. Gary came back and tried to complete a comeback as Manchester came up just short, as Manchester held on to win that game 53-50 to win their first ever semi-state championship in the history of Manchester basketball. They will be taking on University on Saturday for the Class 2A state championship. Manchester won a state championship in baseball back in 2002, but besides that point, Manchester has never won a basketball state championship of any kind. And as a matter of fact, for girls basketball as well, if you count the girls' side of things, neither Wabash County school has ever won a state championship in basketball. So Manchester looking to achieve some historic firsts for the Manchester Squires, who are led by Gavin Benton and Ethan Hendricks, both committing to Grace College, both scoring at least over 1,000 points. Hendricks with 1,172. Gavin Benton, the Wabash County scoring leader, has 2,115. And when you get to my interview with Eli Henson, he will mention that Gavin Benton will probably play at the wing position at Grace College. So maybe his game could actually expand even greater at the Nets level. And for those wondering, yes, Josiah Ball is going to play college basketball, also in the NEIA level, but this time at Bethel College. So Ball is going to Bethel, Benton and Hendricks going to Grace College from that aspect of things. As far as the basketball offseason content is concerned, I will get things rolling this week on that. We will start with the girls, and then we will roll with the boys off-season content for the basketball teams. We will also do the same for football. But that's pretty much where the next phase of our basketball media content goes for basketball. We still have some postseason awards and whatnot to post for our area schools. Again, spring season really going in full swing starting this week, as softball will start playing their games hopefully tomorrow, but with the weather, you just never know with softball. Track and field, obviously well underway, and especially for the Northeast State, who hosted their first ever indoor track meets, which they were occupied at Indiana Tech. And Norwell and Columbia City won the first ever NEA indoor track championships. Norwell winning the boys indoor meet with 95.5 points. Columbia City girls scored about 120 points to win the girls meets. If you looked at ANEC Sports, we nominated and gave out recognition to Madeline Bradbury and Jace Harmon of Norwell as the ANEC track and field performers of the week for this week. Bradbury is a freshman at Columbia City, Harmon a senior at Norwell. Again, as we get things rolling with ANEC Sports for the spring season, please make sure the stats are made available, and please make sure you're reaching out to me for any possible nominations for the upcoming week of votes. Boys volleyball is a sanctioned sport for the first time, and so ANEC Sports will be covering boys volleyball starting this season. And because our area schools don't have that many boys volleyball programs right now, we are going to expand to schools that will eventually become part of our expanded library of coverage at ANEC Sports. That will include schools like Homestead and Carroll, Warsaw, Northridge, Elkhart, Northrop, Snyder, Southside, Northside. Those schools in Fort Wayne and Elkhart, they are going to be getting this coverage of boys volleyball this season. And starting next year, the next school year, we are going to expand ANEC Sports' overall coverage to 64 schools. That means we are going to add in the SAC. We are going to add in most of the NLC schools. We're not going to include Mishawaka in our coverage just because they're a bit too far away from our coverage. We will include some schools just outside of the NLC area, which will include Elkhart. They will be the lone NIC school that we will cover at ANEC Sports. We will also be covering Bremen and Jimtown from the Northern States Conference, as well as Tippecanoe Valley. We will also be covering Elkhart Christian, Lakeland Christian, and we will also be covering the Grant County schools as well, starting next year with Marion, Eastbrook, Mississauga, and Madison. Grant, we are not going to cover the whole CIC. Unfortunately, I can only cover so many schools, so we're only going to deal with just the Grant County schools for the CIC, and then obviously Marion will be mentioned as well. They will be the only NCC school we'll be covering from a perspective of the overall picture of ANEC Sports. as well as the Wabash County schools, Wabash, Northfield, Manchester, and Southwood will also be part of our coverage as well. Again, stay tuned for some previews for boys volleyball. I hope to have some other additional content along the way throughout the early portions of the season as we get to know our area schools that are fielding boys volleyball this season. This week, we'll also start our game of the week coverage for boys volleyball and softball. On Wednesday, Columbia City is hosting Heritage. Expect that preview to also be combined with our preseason content as well. So we're going to combine both things into this preview between Heritage and Columbia City. And then the softball game of the week at ANEC Sports will feature the first of two meetings this season between the Leo Lions and the Woodland Warriors. This will be hosted by Leo for this game. There's another game in May where Woodland will be hosting Leo. At least that is scheduled to be the case. We hope that the weather will cooperate this week. Usually around late March into early April, it can be a little bit cool in terms of temperatures. You could have some wind become a problem. It could be cold temperatures. Hopefully, we don't see any snow of any kind. We have seen that in the past where some games had to be postponed or even canceled altogether because of snow. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But again, it's March. Don't expect the weather to be that nice early on. But hopefully as we get to April and then into May, hopefully the weather will start to warm up and we'll get some more ideal temperatures for the baseball and softball and track and field seasons as a whole. Next week, we'll begin our baseball game of the week coverage when the New Haven Bulldogs host the Heritage Patriots for baseball. As I mentioned on the ANEC Sports page, we are going to start doing a one game of the week preview for baseball, softball, and boys volleyball just because I need to have a little bit of break during the spring season. So as I balance out the off-season stuff for the winter and the fall sports, I also want to make sure that the spring season also gets some coverage, but it's also light in terms of content. So it's still good content for our followers and for our fans, players, and coaches. But at the same time, I also want to make sure that I'm also taking care of what needs to be done with the rest of the sports as well. As we get closer to May, I will also start making some announcements for this year's male and female athlete of the year. I will make a post to talk more about how you can nominate a athlete for male and female athlete of the year for the 2024-25 school year. I will just tell you right now, I will just tell you off the bat that the male and female athlete of the year votes will consist of players that played more than one sport. This is just to allow fairness into our votes, keep things consistent. And so just know that I do have some restrictions on how the athlete of the year nominations are going to go. And I will state more details as we get closer to May and so forth. So that is going to do it for the talk around the corner. We have two special guests on our show this week. First will be the head softball coach of the Leo Lions, Ben Shappell, as Leo gets their softball season underway this week. And we have a very special guest from the Manchester Squires boys basketball team, Eli Henson, as this team gets ready for the 2A boys basketball state championship game that will be played at Cambridge Fieldhouse. Enjoy the interviews, and I'll see you next time. I'm here with the head softball coach of the Leo Lions, Ben Shappell. And Coach, the season starts this week for softball. And Coach, you've been doing this for quite some time at Leo. Let's talk about your career up to this point in Leo. It's a very nice career at Leo, including a state championship.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I've been there since 2007, and it's coach, my assistant coach Joe McLeany, and I have actually been talking last couple weeks about, when we started, we had maybe two or three girls that played travel, and now I think all but maybe three or four of the kids in our entire program, including our JV, all play travel. So the amount of time and the popularity of the sport has increased a lot. But the amount of time that the girls have put in, the families have put in before they ever get to us, has changed a lot too. And it's really, really helped our program out a lot just to get the support from the community and just the players seeing, the high school girls growing up and coming to our games and then wanting to play on that team and be a part of our program, has really, continued our success that we started in the, around 2011 really was our first sectional championship. And so it's just been nice to be able to continue to get the girls that are ready to play and then, not have to do a whole lot with them. We refine some things and work with them to get them working together, but the skills they come in with are unbelievable.
And the skill sets have improved over the years, including some state ranked teams and teams that have knocked the door in the state finals, state championship in 2015. You've come close a few times, even recently, but just coming up short. And then a couple years ago, you ran into New Prairie a couple times in a row. And then before that, you had South Bend St. Joseph in semi-state. They had an excellent pitcher the year that you lost in the semi-state as well. So you've been close several times. Last year, you went 26-6. Winning the Northeast State after falling to Huntington North the year before that. And you had a couple nice seniors with Anna Woods and Lillian Pierce and Mackenzie Royals out at Purdue Fort Wayne. Pierce also playing collegiately. I think there's others I'm missing off the top of my head, but obviously it's a very talented team and you bring a lot of kids back. But talk about this year's group and what we could expect this year.
Yeah, we've got 8 seniors, and that's a really talented group of kids that have played in our program for 4 years. And so it's nice to see, kids continue to work and get better. Some of the kids have played some years of JV, so to continue to stick with it, even though they, weren't on varsity throughout their entire career. And most of them are going on to play at the next level next year. And so that's been really good to see them become leaders on the team as well. And, just taking that leadership role, making sure that they are talking to the younger girls, and teaching them things at each of the different positions. It's nice too, because we've got some seniors that play multiple positions. And so, being able to work with outfielders and then come in and still work with infielders and, just show them exactly what we expect and all of those things has been a great asset to our program to see those girls be able to help the younger girls grow as well.
Obviously, some multi-sport kids at Leo's, some nice some nice talent on that team, and program depth's been huge over the years because it's allowed your team to still be competitive every year because of the depth with Leo and all those travel kids you've talked about earlier. You also have your daughter that's that's not a senior, but also one of the key players on this Leo team is Leah Shappell is going to Fair State, I believe, in a couple years for softball. How does it feel to have your daughter being a part of this group?
It's a lot of fun to coach her. It's something I've looked forward to for a long time, is to coach Leah, and to see her grow and continue to work, and just her love for softball. I mean, she loves athletics in general. And, it's great to see her out on the volleyball court playing for mom for basketball. But to be able to coach your daughter is just a wonderful opportunity for me. And so I'm really looking forward to her being a key, having a key role this year. She's going to be our primary pitcher. We've had, Mackenzie Arroyo, Anna Woods last year. And then year before also having Ellie Souter. So we've had some great pitchers the last few years coming through our program that Leah's got to learn from. And, just seeing Leah grow though. And it's nice too that she's been able to make her college commitment already, because now there's no pressure that way. Nobody to really impress. And she's done a really good job of being a leader as well. And just helping our younger pitchers. I told her the other day, I need you to work on leg drive with the younger girls. And so she's like, okay. So she was out, getting ready to do drills with them this coming week. Actually, on Tuesday, she's got some drills she's going to do with them in between our scrimmage and our game. So being able to put that on her has been good as well. But love being able to coach your own kid. And she's a really coachable kid too. So that's nice. She knows that when we're out on the softball field, I'm her coach and not her dad. And so being able to talk to her as I would any other player, I don't coach her. It's hard for me sometimes not to coach her harder than some of the other girls. But she does a good job of responding to all of her different coaches in the entire program. So yeah, just it's amazing to be able to coach her.
Yeah. Every year it's a different team, even though you bring quite a bit back from last year. But talk about what this year's team has looked so far in the early days of this program season.
Yeah, so one of the major holes we have to fill is corner infield and then also catcher. Lily Pierce, that you mentioned, stepped in and played a big role at catcher for us last year when Emily Piano got hurt. So Emily's back this year. I'm still dealing with a little bit of health issues, but hopefully she'll be at 100%. And then we've got a freshman and a sophomore catcher that I think are really going to help us as well. So the sophomore is Bella Vigiano and the freshman is Lexi Nicewonder. Both really, really great kids. They work super hard. And so it's nice to have, somebody that you can count on. Just because, like I said, with Emily's health, I'm not sure. We're hoping for the best year for her, but just not sure where that's going to go. And then corner infield, Carly Funk played outfield for us last year when Lily had to move to catcher. And so Carly can go back to third, which is, I think, her, but she can play both. Absolutely. Outfield, she's fast, and she's got, one of the fastest overhand throws probably in the Fort Wayne area. She throws almost 70-mile-an-hour overhand. And so being able to get the ball quickly from third over to first is going to be great for us. And then Faith Douglas, who's committed to Bethel, is doing a great job and is a really, really good hitter. She's improved that a lot this year, being able to step in at first. And then we've also got some underclassmen. Allie Wolf can help at either of the corner positions. Lucy Schott is going to help us a lot this year at pitcher and at first base. And she's a really versatile kid as well, can play literally any position. I mean, she can pitch, she can catch, she can play anywhere in the infield. And I wouldn't hesitate to put her in the outfield. But, we've got a really good group of freshmen this year that are coming in. Some sophomores were able to help us last year, but a really strong group of freshmen this year that I'm looking forward to coaching over the next 4 years because they're super talented. They work hard. They ask questions. They do what you ask them to do. You can't ask for anything more than that. So, every year it seems like we've got a few holes where we've got to plug some kids in, and every year we've got the right kids coming in with the right mindset and the right attitude that they can come in and help. So this is no exception to that this year.
Yeah, so expectations remain the same once again for Leo, as I believe, and then you got Concordia on the 9th of April to open the season coming off of spring break. Homestead will be coming to Leo on the 10th. You got a doubleheader with Elkhart on, I believe it's the 12th. Carroll, you're going to Carroll on the 15th, it looks like. Carroll's got a nice team over the years, and then Brewers, Dorthup, Munster. You open their conference against Columbia City on the 19th of April. Coach, this Northeast 8 conference has become quite a difficult conference over the years, and you've obviously built a schedule that's prepared you for the trials of the NEA because of Columbia City and East Noble's got some nice teams recently, and even a team like Belmont has had some good teams, and Belmont expects to be a competitive team as well. Huntington North obviously gave you some trouble in the past as well. What do you expect with the Northeast State this year for your team, and how do you think your schedule best fits for what's to come for the Northeast State?
Yeah, we definitely try and get the girls a lot of competitive games before Northeast 8 conference play starts because we know that our conference is really, really good, super competitive, has some really good pitchers. You mentioned, all of those teams. And I think DeKalb's going to be better this year. New Haven, with some stability at coaching, is going to be a lot better this year. So, from top to bottom, I think we've got a really good group of 8 teams that could compete with and probably beat a lot of the other teams around the Fort Wayne area. And so we got to go out and we got to find some teams outside of Fort Wayne that are going to get us ready for those teams. And so that's what we've tried to do at the first part of our schedule this year. But those other teams in our conference have A lot of talented kids as well. You mentioned Columbia City. We actually play them at our Invitational. I think you mentioned there on the 19th. That's actually a non-conference game that we play against Columbia City. And Emma Hiss is, committed to Grace. She plays for the Gators travel team in the summer that I help coach. And so I know what she brings. She's a great hitter, obviously a great pitcher, and just a really, really good athlete. And they've got a number of kids on that team that a couple of them I've coached before, and I know they've got a lot of kids coming back this year. Huntington North, coach always does a great job getting those kids ready. They play a tough schedule as well, and so they're always ready for us and are really competitive. Belmont's pitcher last year gave us a tough time. She was a freshman last year, will just be a sophomore this year, and plays with a couple of our girls in the summer. And so we know that they're going to be really good. Saw East Noble is going to be much improved this year. They've got almost that whole team back, and we played them in regionals the last 2 years and been on the good side of that. But, you never know with the kids that they've got coming in and how much everybody's improved. And I know Allwine's been working and is a really good pitcher as well. So to see all of those teams from top to bottom just continuing to get better makes it tough for us, but it's a good thing for these girls as well to be able to compete. And it makes all of the Northeast 8 teams a lot better for the postseason as well. So us, Columbia City, and trying to think who else. I think there were 3 of Norwell. Have all won sectionals the last few years. Huntington North won sectional a couple years ago. And so for them to, for our conference up and down to be able to compete against each other and just make each other better for the postseason runs has been really nice. I know like last year, Norwell was at semi-state with us. They played the game before us and did a really good job with a really tough Western team. And so they've got a lot of their kids coming back too. So like I said, top to bottom, I think Northeast State is definitely the best conference in Northeast Indiana, and for sure gets everybody ready for the postseason.
Yeah, and whoever wins that Northeast State Conference is going to be rewarded with a conference championship. Obviously, your team has been grateful for having quite a few of those championships already, but this conference is going to be difficult as it usually is. Last question for me, Coach. Obviously, you've been coaching at Leo for quite some time now. We're right around 18 years at Leo. A lot of success, but off the field, a lot of memories with the Leo program. You mentioned your wife is the girls basketball coach at Leo, Carrie Shappell, who's been there just as long as you have at Leo. So there's a family connection with Leo. It's a nice small town in East Allen County area of the woods. What is it like being the part of the Leo community?
It's really great. I mean, the support that we get from the community is amazing. I graduated from Leo in 95. My wife graduated from here in 97. And so to be able to come back and just give back a little bit to the community has been really rewarding for us. But just to see like the amount of involvement that everybody has and supporting each other, like just, I mean, 3 hours ago, we were up and watching the play. They did Bye Bye Birdie, and some of my players were in the play, and just the number of people that were there on a Sunday afternoon to support those kids that are in the play and to continue to support all the athletics, the businesses around here, even the new businesses that come in, do a great job of supporting the teams financially. We've got all kinds of support from the community. The girls, do fundraisers for every sport that I mean, all the athletic teams do fundraisers and get great support from the community. And just like I said, the amount of kids that we have that are putting time into the sports before they ever get to high school has grown a lot over the last, 15 years. And that just says a lot about the community support, how much they appreciate the high school and the success we've had, and they just want to be a part of that. So it's been really nice to have so much community support, so much family support, and just to be able to give back to the community in a small way by coaching has been really rewarding.
All right, this has been Shappell of the Leo Lions as they get set to open the 2025 season with expectations, but obviously a team with experience and some new kids coming in as Leo tries to defend the Northeast State Championship. Final thoughts before we let you go, Coach.
I appreciate you having me. Looking forward to a really good season. Open up on Wednesday at home against Woodland for everybody who can make it. And, just appreciate everybody's continued support.
All right, Coach, thank you and good luck on your season for the Leo Lions.
Thank you.
I'm here with the head boys basketball coach of the Manchester Squires, Eli Henson. Your team is one win away from the school's potential first state championship. Coach, how are things going for you on this? What's going to be a very busy week for you and your program?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's already been extremely busy. Just for example, today we spent the whole day with two of our players, Gavin and Ethan, our athletic director and our principal, headed down to Indy 6:00, 6:30 in the morning, and didn't get back till 3:45 just in time to start practice. So, I haven't even had a chance. My mind hasn't been able to slow down with anything. The unfortunate thing so far is I haven't had a lot of time to really prep for the game, but that will happen probably tomorrow because I'm taking tomorrow off. I need a personal day tomorrow just to kind of focus on that, just to kind of have time to watch a lot of game film and just kind of get our game plan in place. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we can practice that and try to perfect as much as we can going into Saturday. But, as overwhelming as this week is going to be from a standpoint of just being anxious about things, trying to get everything done, it's going to be worth it at the end. So, when you want to accomplish something as a state championship, well, you got to put a lot of work into it. And there's a lot of work that's going into it this week, just, media stuff and a lot of, news stations wanting to come into practices. My message has been to the boys all week, just let's all just try to stay focused. And, it's easier said than done for teenagers. They've accomplished a lot this season, but, that's my goal this week is just trying to keep everyone focused and keep myself focused on what the task is on Saturday.
We'll talk about that state finals game later on, but I want to first talk about your road to get to this point. You are a graduate of Elwood High School, went to Anderson for your BA, got your MEd at Ball State. You started your coaching career at North White for a few years, and then you went to Whitko, spent 4 seasons at Whitko. I remember you from your time at Whitko because you coached a nice team in 2017 that unfortunately ran into a nice Central Noble team that year and whatnot. You got your job in Manchester in 2019. And you helped this program build some of the most successful teams they've had since the late 90s, 3 straight conference championships, all being shared by either Wabash or McConaughey. But as far as this time with Manchester, did you really envision maybe this type of moment even happening, or did you knew that was always a possibility?
With the group that we had, Gavin and Ethan have been starting since they were freshmen. So you always knew you're going to have some of the pieces. Now, the development of those other guys in that class has really improved over the last few years. So, yeah, I mean, envisioning a state championship, maybe not necessarily that, but I always envisioned that we were going to have a lot of success, have a good regular season, and then have a chance at postseason success. How far that went, it was just my goal was always we got to win a sectional. It hasn't been done since 94 for us, so we have to win a sectional first. That's always been my goal. And, luckily this year we were able to accomplish that, but we weren't done there. And then I know some of the players' goal was, we're going to go far, coach. Like I promise you, once we saw our realignment in our sectional and kind of Blackhawk moved up and got us realigned in a different sectional, gave us a lot of confidence going into the postseason. But, you can have confidence going into the postseason, but it's all about execution once you get there. And our guys have done such a good job just executing game plans, not to perfection. No one's going to play perfect, but they've done such a good job just taking away the other team's best players, and that's been a big part of our postseason success. But yeah, I mean, once we won a sectional and then we won a regional, then I started thinking big because you always realize how good you are in the regular season, but once you see those guys go out and play with that kind of confidence and play that loose in a sectional and regional game, you're like, oh man, like these guys aren't fazed by anything. So that's when the confidence really started to building that we could make a very, very deep run, if not go to the state championship.
Mm-hmm. the Three Rivers Conference has become a difficult conference over the years. For many years you had Tibby Valley, which they eventually left the conference for the Northern States Conference, but you had Wabash when they were having their good teams and whatnot. Whitko just a couple years ago beat your team that season a couple years ago to allow that share to happen with Wabash. Just this past season, you had McConaughey, and that was always good games between your team and McConaughey with Josiah Ball and McConaughey. Vision had a tremendous career with the Braves, who happened to reach semi-state this past season, whatnot. And obviously, preparation, that competition really prepared you for the state tournament. Obviously, you had the talent and whatnot to make that possible. But I do want to talk about the senior class at Manchester. Gavin Bennett over 2,100 points in his career. He's going to Grace College alongside Ethan Hendricks, who has scored 1,172 points in his career. Talking about the contributions that those two players have brought to the program, and maybe talk about some other guys that don't get that same limelight, so to speak, but have been a huge part of your team's success.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I could talk about Gavin and Ethan for hours. I mean, those guys have meant so much to this team, meant so much for this program for the last 4 years. They're it's I can steer them in the right direction, but those two and the other guys are the reason why we're here, today talking about them playing in a state championship. But, Gavin's meant so much just because, for one, his passion he loves the game of basketball, and he has spent so much time trying to work on his craft and try to perfect it as much as he can. He's always trying to get better, and he's always been one that always takes criticism, always wants to get better and work on his game because his ultimate goal is he wants to be as good as he possibly can, because he knows he wants to play early when he goes to Grace next year. So, it's building a team around Gavin and Ethan has been pretty easy because those guys are so good. You got a very good inside player that can stretch. A lot of people don't know that Gavin he is going to play a wing in college, and he could play a wing for us right now, but we don't need him to. I mean, for a 2A program, he is so good around the rim. He would be good for a 4A program around the rim. Like, he is dominant on both ends of the floor, defensively and offensively. That suits us the best, is just having him around the rim. Now, we let him stretch it out as much as he wants and penetrate, because he does such a good job putting the ball on the floor, drawing to and kicking it to guys. But, and then talking a little bit about Ethan. I mean, Ethan's our quarterback. I told Ethan how proud I am of him just in this last week, because no matter what I'm calling out, they couldn't hear me in the semi-state game. Like, they could not hear me offensively, defensively, trying to call out. So Ethan had to take the reins of that and just kind of get us all organized and set. And he did such a good job of that Saturday in that semi-state. But he's just kind of always been our leader. He's our vocal leader. Him and Gavin are both our vocal leaders, but they always just lead by example. They're always trying to do the right things on the court. They hold each other accountable, and they hold their teammates accountable. And I think everybody respects them because of that. You can't hold others accountable if you're not going to hold yourself accountable. And, that's something that I've really seen them grow this year, as opposed to the last couple of years. Not that they weren't great leaders, but as they mature, they're getting even better leadership. But, those guys have the ability to make those around them better, and they've done such a good job of that. But, for us to have this success in the postseason, you have to have more than two players. And, some guys that have really stepped up for us is Talon Torpy. Torpy's had a couple of big games versus Tipton in the regionals. He had 18 points and really just, got us going in that game. You can always tell when Talon hits a shot early in that game, it's going to be a great game for us. And he did it again versus Jimtown, had another good game. He's just really one that, when they really work on taking Gavin and Ethan away, he really steps into the spotlight and steps up for us. And he's kind of a gamer. He's not fazed by how big the stage is. He just kind of shows up and plays. Another one that has really stepped up for us is Caleb Klein. Caleb, first game of the year in football, tore his ACL and elected not to have surgery because he didn't want to miss any of basketball. He knew it was going to be a special season in basketball. So he rehabbed for 3 months and got to the point that he was starting the first game for us. That's, so he's been playing on a complete tear of an ACL all season long, and it hadn't slowed him down. Like, he had 4 threes in the semi-state, really came up clutch. He played 28 minutes in that semi-state finals on a torn ACL, where he probably averaged about 15 minutes all season long every game. But that's how valuable he was to our team, especially at that time. But and he's out there because we all trust him. He's always going to try to make the right play. He's going to give you all kinds of effort. Any effort that he can give you, he's going to give you. And those are two guys that really stand out, that have really picked up their role and have perfected their role in the last couple of weeks. It's kind of led to our success.
Wow, that's quite the answer to that question. But now I want to kind of shift over to the postseason here, talking about the Manchester Squires. You mentioned this what prior to this season, you had not won a sectional since 1994. That has
Yeah.
been well documented there. But you did a pretty good job in your sectional, taking care of Rochester and Oak Hill. Oak Hill, nice program down in
Mhm.
the Grant County area of the woods. You played Tipton, as you mentioned earlier. Nice team for the Tipton Blue Devils, coached by the legendary Cliff Hawkins, and
Yep.
you won that game by 18 points. Probably a closer game than that score would anticipate. Which takes us to the semi-state at Michigan City. Two
Mhm.
very difficult opponents that you had to face on Saturday with Jimtown and then Gary 21st Century. The
Yeah.
Jimtown game was a back and forth game. Very late in the contest, your star quarterback Ethan Hendricks hits that three with about a second to go in that game to send your team to the championship game. That's got
Yeah.
to be an emotional moment for
Oh,
your team there.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that in a minute here. And then the game against Gary 21st Century, you build a big lead early on against a very talented 21st Century team. They were ranked number one in the state, I believe, in 2A. So they had quite the talent for that Cougars program. And then you were able to hold off a late rally to win that game by 3 points. Just talk about the moments, the jubilation from both of those games, and then
Mhm.
just the realization coming out of the fact that you have the first semi-state championship in the history of Manchester High School.
Yeah, I mean, let's just go start with the Jimtown game. That was a game, kind of a roller coaster game. We started off kind of slow. Actually, we started off pretty well. Then that second quarter, they kind of took over. They opened up a 7 point lead, I think, in the second quarter. But then we responded very well, and we took the lead going into halftime. And then we come out in the third quarter and played extremely well and built that lead up. I think 9. I think we were up by as many as 7, actually 7 or 8, and that was going into the fourth quarter. But fourth quarter, the Jimtown just kind of flipped a switch. Their intensity level picked up. They started to find some mismatches in our defense and our man-to-man, but they took a 3 point lead, and I think there was 50 seconds left on the clock. They had a 3 point lead, and there was a lot of people in that gym that probably didn't expect us to win, but we had the ball. Got Talon Torpy some good action in a backdoor set. He got a layup, so we're down one. Then we made a foul, and then they hit one free throw, missed one, and then we got the rebound. And Ethan Hendricks hit a three with a contested three right in front of our bench. And I'm yelling at him, shoot it, because that's the kind of confidence I had in him. I mean, he had been shooting the ball so well the last few weeks and looked so good all week in practice shooting the ball that when the ball's in his hands in that situation, you have to trust that he's going to make the right play and he's going to have the confidence in himself to hit a big shot like that, which he did. I mean, but there's 6 seconds left on the clock, and we did not do a very good job stopping the ball in transition. They got it out, attacked right down the middle of the floor. Luckily, Gavin did a good job protecting the rim, and the kid went in and missed not a layup, but like a kind of a floater in the lane, and we got the rebound and we were able to put it away. But I mean, that was a game that without Ethan hitting that shot, we're not winning, obviously. But without our guys making big plays when we needed to down that last minute, like Talon Torpy with his layup and then Gavin on the defensive end. I mean, those are our best players made big plays when we needed them, and that was a big part of that game. The Gary game, we started off extremely well. We're up 12-4. They fought back. It was 15 to, I think it was a 2 point game at the end of the first quarter. And then halftime, it was a 2 point game. And then we just came out in that third quarter with a whole different level of energy. You could tell both teams were very tired in that second half. Our guys just really kicked it into that third quarter and separated themselves a little bit because we built a 10-point lead. Without building that 10-point lead, Gary might have got us in that fourth quarter because when our energy dropped in that fourth quarter, their energy went to a whole different level and they started getting after us, and it bothered us. We turned it over, I think, 7 times in the fourth quarter when we only had 4 all game, and it really bothered us and it showed. But, credit to our guys, even when it got close. We had Ethan hit 4 for 4 from the foul line in the last 2 possessions of the game. Gavin had a big bucket down low to expand the lead to 4. And we always kept about a 2-possession lead until the very end when they got it down to 1. They had a chance to tie it or take the lead. And luckily we were able to get a big rebound and come away with that. But I mean, the excitement from those games, honestly, to me, still to this day, it hasn't really kind of sunk in yet. I don't, because but I'll probably take time here in the next, after this week, take time because my focus just instantly went. I celebrated that night, and it instantly just went to, what do we have to do to bring a state championship home to Manchester? And, that this will sink in at some point for me soon once this is all done. But, I'm excited that I get my excitement just by seeing how excited those boys were and seeing how excited our community and school has been this week. And, I can't imagine what it's going to feel like if we have it, if we win a state championship.
Which leads us to my next question, which discussing that state finals matchup against University. I've heard of this program before. Back in 2019, the University played Westview, only lost by 5 points in that game at Grace College. So I had a pretty good idea that this University program has a nice team of their own. They have a couple of players that are averaging double figures in Matt McComb and Blake Gray, by the looks of it, at University. Very nice program, but very battle tested team from what it looks like. But obviously, when you get to the state finals, you're going to get a good competition no matter what.
Yeah,
Going to Gainbridge Fieldhouse, going to an NBA level facility in a high energy atmosphere and whatnot. How has your kids handled the pressure and the media attention so far going into this week? And then what are your initial thoughts? I know you're going to have more of an idea later on, but what are your initial thoughts going into this game?
I mean, they're going to be a very difficult team to beat. I do feel like we match up pretty well with them. I like that we have a little bit of a size advantage on them just with Gavin's. It's nice when Gavin only has to play against 6'4", 6'5" guys. That gives us an advantage. It means they have to probably throw two at him in the post. But, going into this game, they're very well balanced. They move the ball very well. There's multiple threats on the floor for them. They're long, they're athletic, they're lanky. They're going to do a good job defensively, taking away our best players. For us to have success, it's all about who can handle the pressure of being in the state finals. And, you got to have guys really step up in that moment. And I've been trying, it's no different than the regionals. It's no different than the sectionals. It's no different than the semi-state. We got to just treat it as another game. Easier said than done when you're playing in Cambridge. But, it's all about who's going to be able to handle that pressure. Who's going to be able to, you got to have it, or you got to have a good start in that game, because you get off to a good start in that game. It kind of just calms everybody down, relieves a little anxiety in some of those guys, and then they can play with a little bit more confidence going forward. So I think that's going to be the key to that game, is whoever gets off to a good start is going to have probably the most success in that game, because it's just calming those nerves down. But, I like our advantage early on in that game just because of Gavin. I like our ability to get him the ball inside and really focus on, it's got to touch the paint those first 4 or 5 possessions. Or with Ethan coming off ball screens, he does such a good job getting downhill, and he draws multiple defenders, and he does such a good job of getting those guys good looks early on in games as well. But, it's all, like I said, it's all about defense. You got to be able to defend. And, it doesn't matter who we're playing. I know we're playing University, which is a very good team. A lot of people didn't think Manchester was going to be in this game, and a lot of people didn't think University was going to be in this game. But here we are, and we're here for a reason. We're both good. So it's all going to be about just who's going to show up with a high level of intensity on defense, and who's going to be able to get some good transition points. I feel like is going to play a huge factor.
Yep. And final question for me, Coach. This is obviously a historic first for this Manchester program as a whole. Obviously, the school has won a state championship in baseball about 23 years ago. So it's not the first time that they've been on the big stage for state finals, but it's the first one for basketball. And that's a sport with a lot of history at Manchester, a lot of great teams in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, even now. This program has seen a lot of success over the years, but this is the first time that Manchester is going to do something with this basketball program that's at the state finals level. What are the reactions coming out of the North Manchester community, the parents, the students? What's the excitement right now? And I know you're going to talk about this more late when the season comes to an end, but what's the one thing you're going to remember the most about this season as a whole, no matter what happens?
I mean, the look on their faces when we won the semi-state and they knew we were going to state was what it's all about. I mean, that's the motivation. You need to go get one more, because our community was behind us. I bet we had 3,000 people there at that game. Our students were traveled 2 hours to be there, and we had probably close to 150 students at that game. To me, that's what makes this experience even more memorable. And we really want, not only do we want to win for ourselves, we want to win for our families, our school, and our community, and just to kind of do something that's never been done. And no Wabash County school has ever won a basketball championship, state championship. So, that's our goal, and we're going to do everything in our power to make that happen, especially, for just our school. And I can't imagine what the excitement's going to be like if we do, because after that semi-state, I mean, I've never seen so many people just so happy about that, just for our team, just for they're proud of being a Squire. I mean, it was something that I'll never forget, but I can't imagine what it's going to feel like on Saturday if we're able to raise that trophy and bring it back to Manchester.
All right, Coach. So any final thoughts before we let you go?
No, hey, we're all ready. I wish we were playing tomorrow. I'd rather just get this week over with, and we're ready to play. I mean, those guys are amped up. They know what's on. This is our last week of practice together. We're enjoying every moment of it. We're going to live it up, but we're going to go out there and play our butts off on Saturday.
All right, Coach. Thank you, and good luck as you prepare for University in the 2A State Championship game.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you for watching the ANEC Sports Podcast. Please like this video and like the page ANEC Sports on YouTube. Let people know that the ANEC Sports is on YouTube. Also like our Facebook page at Around the Northeast Corner, and follow either Around the Northeast Corner and Sam Frick on Twitter/X. We're also on Instagram as well. Just look for ANEC Sports or Around the Northeast Corner and you will find us there. You can also follow the man himself, Sam Frick, the founder and editor at Around the Northeast Corner, for other additional content. This has been an Around the Northeast Corner presentation.